end of their term of office. I think many of us are aware that some of them don't even complete a year in office, so it has been a big challenge. This is and make senior management appointments. Obviously, I'm not saying that is the case everywhere else. There may be areas where coalition governments are working well in some municipalities. But in the main, you find these challenges in most of our coalition arrangements. This also has resulted in the development of a framework in coalition local government by SALGA. We have since used this framework as part of our source documents, amongst others, to develop a discussion document which during the National Dialogue on Coalition Government, we were able to refer to it when we met at the University of the Western Cape in August of 2023. You will recall, colleagues, that when we convened that dialogue, in the main, it was because of looking at the challenges that were happening at local government level. I remember some people were saying I convened that dialogue because I was anticipating that at the national level we're going to go that route. No, it was not true. I did not anticipate. I was just trying to deal with the problem at hand. But it's an experience that is helping us now as we speak. It may not be something we planned, but with hindsight, we started with national government on a much better footing compared to at local government level. So it was a blessing in disguise. To this end, with the assistance of Dalla Omar Institute and MISTRA, we have been able to develop coalition frameworks for South Africa. So you'll recall when we were at the dialogue, MISTRA and the Dalla Omar Institute were there working with us on that framework. This framework has been handed over to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs as a basis for the development of the Municipal Structures Amendment Bill 2024, which some call the Coalitions Bill, which is managed now by COGTA, and will be submitted to Cabinet for approval and to be introduced to Parliament in this coming session. So it will come quite soon, and we do expect that SALGA will be able to make a lot of proposals as we go through that. We must all be committed to our clearly defined vision to promote the interests of local government. In doing so, we must appreciate the increased effectiveness and efficiency of SALGA's support to municipalities, particularly in intergovernmental structures. But as I said earlier, including the NCOP is one area where we would like to see SALGA playing a very important role. We are now cognizant of the fact that many entities have been unable to pay their bills. In other words, many of our municipalities. It is obvious that a municipality's capacity to pay its bills, including those of ESCOM, water boards, is directly related to its capacity to collect revenue for the services rendered to households, businesses, and other government departments. Now, I know there are a number of culprits here, Minister. I know that we ourselves as national government, we are culprits as well. There are a number of national government departments that are not paying municipalities, and it's something that we need to deal with, whether it's for water services or electricity. And for us to expect municipalities to be able to pay water boards, to pay ESCOM, when they are not able to collect proper revenue, it's a big problem. And I'm happy, President, you said to me earlier that this is something that you're going to be discussing with Minister of Finance in their Lekgotla in March, but also including issues of the funding model for local government. I did say to the President earlier on that at the beginning of the new administrations after independence, there was a particular view on municipalities and the kind of revenue base we thought they have. And that must have informed the issue of how we manage the sharing of revenue in terms of the national fiscus. That needs to be reviewed now that we know the reality. And I'm happy that that engagement has started, because the assumption that all municipalities have revenue to service all these entities where they get services from is not entirely correct, because they don't have revenue base. So we need to re-look into that. So, Chairperson, in response to the increasingly complex situation faced by municipalities, we urge SALGA to continue working with government, especially national government, but also other critical partners, to find suitable solutions to these challenges. I'm happy that Minister Ramukhopa is here, Minister Godongwane was also here, because we need to plan together. A lot of things happen at the local level, whether you're talking service delivery, economic development, economic growth, they happen at local level. So we need to coordinate and work together. Now, with regard to payment of water boards, the Minister of COGTA proposed what we call a one-stop solution to resolve the interlinked financial challenges between municipalities, water boards, and other stakeholders. I'm not sure, President, if SALGA have been favored with this proposal, but it's something that we need to look at. Now, this approach, colleagues, would involve streamlining the payment system through the National Treasury. Now, let me try and explain it, because some people don't like it. I don't know if Minister Ramukhopa likes it. But under this model, funds owed by government departments to municipalities will be directly routed through the National Treasury, which would then allocate payments to water boards and other creditors like ESCOM. So in other words, you're doing what we call, Minister, top slicing. Yeah? Don't like it? I'm just pulling his leg. No, what we're trying to do is that we're saying to national department, if you owe water boards or ESCOM, before we give you your money, we will take what you owe and pay it to those that you owe. Obviously, we don't want to cripple departments, so what we take will be measured, because some of the debts are quite high. So National Treasury will say, okay, Minister Ramukhopa, we see your department is owing ESCOM some money. So instead of giving you 100 million will give you 90. We take in turn to pay gradually the debt. So it's something that we think will help over time. Obviously, a new idea that we're going to try and deal with it now. Now, as government, we understand that addressing the innate issues plaguing municipal finance is not only essential for improving service delivery and infrastructure, but also for restoring public trust in local government. If municipalities are not doing well, people lose trust in them. They lose trust in local governance. So it's important that we must get their finances right. We therefore encourage municipalities to explore new models to effectively collect revenue, thus ensuring their financial sustainability. In this regard, we encourage municipalities to enter into that space by, amongst others, bringing in the IPPs and buying from them. I'm sure Minister Ramokgopa will be talking to you about those opportunities where municipalities can also generate electricity where possible. But I leave that to you to talk to SALGA about how to go about that as well. We are focusing on finding new revenue streams, and this will be discussed with National Treasury in the Lekgotla. Really, that should help us to address the core issues that affect our municipalities. But also, I think SALGA must also help us to ensure that when it comes to issues of leadership in municipalities, that there is more discipline in doing things and so on. So it's not just that you don't have a revenue base, but sometimes also leadership, management, all those things sometimes do contribute to municipalities not doing well. If we do that, or in doing so, it will be important that we consider strengthening the municipal public accounts committees to ensure oversight on procurement processes, expenditures, and compliance with financial regulations. I believe, Chairpersons, that our municipalities can be fixed. We just need more concerted efforts in the implementation of professionalization in our municipalities. We do have the professionalization framework, which we must apply to national, provincial, and local government, but also state-owned companies. The framework as it is now focuses on ensuring that we have the right people who are implementing, accelerating service delivery, addressing poor performance, but also skills gap in the public service. It's important that we attract people with the right skills in our municipalities to be able to work there. Now, the President was saying to me earlier, the President of SALGA was saying to me earlier that we need to relook at the categorization of municipalities, because sometimes some of them are finding it difficult to attract the kind of skills they need because of the disparities in remuneration and so on, something that we need to deal with. But there's no doubt that you need more professionals at local government level. I know that historically the metros have been able to attract more skilled people because of their capacity to be able to pay proper salaries and benefits and so on. But some of the municipalities are not able to afford that. So it's a big challenge that we must look at. As SALGA, you should work with the national government and ensure that we address these issues of professionalization. Ladies and gentlemen, we must prioritize the speed of execution, which includes enhancing coordination across government. Now, I emphasize this point because we have a lot of good policies as government. We're not short of good policies. There may be there and there where we need to review and strengthen, but in the main, we do have a lot of good policies, but we are always found wanting when it comes to execution. And that's why I'm emphasizing the speed of execution. Let's get things done. We have policies, we have plans, our vision is clear, our priorities, let us implement. As government, what we are doing at the national level currently, we are harmonizing planning and budgeting as part of adopting this district development model, which all of you know is based on one plan, one vision, to obtain the best results in developing a better life for everyone. We found this very useful because when national government, provincial and local government plan together, we often come out with much better results because we are able to channel resources where the priorities are. And I've spent a lot of time going to provinces, meeting with the premiers, MECs and executive mayors and MMCs and so on. And I find that to be a very useful way of working, which I think we must strengthen. Last year, the President introduced the water task team because of the challenges we're beginning to have in that sector as well. So I'm chairing that task team and working with a number of ministers. We want to make sure that we don't get to the challenges that we had with electricity. I know that we now got the issue of electricity under control with more than 300 days of no load shedding until last Saturday when Minister Ramokgopa called me. I was somewhere in the bush and he said, "Hey, don't be surprised. We might have a challenge this weekend." And those are real challenges. It's not just a failure of human beings. They are real challenges. We're done well for close to a year, but last weekend there was a problem, and ministers briefed me that we might have to do some load shedding, but just a little bit temporarily to fix those things. And on Saturday night, he sent me a message. He says, "We will suspend on Sunday morning. We've got the things right." So there are things I'm sure Minister is going to talk to us on. In the long run, how are we going to ensure that we have this sustainable way of doing things? The Minister always talks to me about the availability of energy and at what level it is, but it's really a subject of your equipments, your power stations, supply of diesel, and a lot of other things that we are dealing with. But I'm happy that Minister Ramokgopa and the team and ESCOM are really doing their best to deal with this issue. We often don't thank them when things are good. Minister Ramokgopa, well done. We only remember you when there's load shedding. We must remember you when things are good. So the water task team, the President was saying, look, let's avoid reaching those levels of a crisis let's plan ahead. And so we are busy with that with Minister Majodina. She has been all over the country. You have seen her. I also went with her to Guyana. We went to eThekwini, Free State, and other places. We are trying to work with everybody to ensure that we deal with this challenge. Some of the provinces like Gauteng, they get most of their water through the Vaal River system comes from the mountains of Lesotho. And currently there is work happening on the tunnel that brings water. And that's why we were worried in terms of what we're going to do. But at least most of our dams are full, and we should be able to supply. But as I said earlier, when it comes to water, our biggest challenge now is aging infrastructure in most municipalities. And once you have aging infrastructure, then you have a problem of leakages, and we then have the problem of non-revenue water, because you're losing 40%, if I'm not wrong, of the water. We're losing it through the leaks and so on. So we need to fix this old infrastructure. In some of the municipalities, they say infrastructure is like 50 years old. So you can understand the challenge. And then you have a municipality that have that kind of aged infrastructure, but they don't have the funds to fix it. So that's where national government must come in to help. Chairperson, as you would know, we are implementing a public-private partnership model in water supply with National Treasury and the Department of Water and Sanitation to ensure that we resolve the current water crisis facing a number of communities. In the energy space or electricity space, the minister, they are already doing that. The private sector is in already to try and work with us. I know that in some other sectors, people are saying we are privatizing. We are privatizing electricity, water. No, we are not. Public-private partnerships is really exactly what it says. It's a partnership. Government continues to play a big role. But truth be told, we don't have all the money that we wish to have to be able to do these things alone. So we need to bring in the private sector. We are not privatizing. We are making sure that we bring the private sector to work with us to bring more resources on board to be able to deal with these challenges. But what is more important for SALGA is let's work together to make the district development model a success. It's a good model, and I believe that if we implement it well, it will make us succeed in a lot of things that we are dealing with, particularly at local government level. Chairperson, having said all this, as we gather here today, I think we must ensure that we sharpen and crystallize a common understanding of the three overarching policy priorities of the 7th administration. We must equally develop a common appreciation of a monitoring and evaluation framework in line with the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act. At least we have now in the presidency, we've got a minister responsible for monitoring and evaluation, because sometimes if you just go implement, but there's no proper monitoring, you are not able to see much earlier when there are red lights. So I think it's something that we must cascade down to provinces, to municipalities, and have this proper monitoring. The intergovernmental relation framework is there, and we just need to tighten that. Let me say something before I end regarding the issue of land. As you know, the President recently signed the Expropriation Act, and there have been a lot of talks everywhere. All I need to say is really to point out that the ownership of land is one of the most important mechanisms to achieve the objectives of economic inclusion, food security, social cohesion, including inclusive spatial patterns, and also to deal with rural development. I often say when I speak to people that the struggle in our country in particular hitherto has been a struggle for land. So it's a very important thing, because without access to land, there's very little you can do to ensure proper development. But in our country in particular, there must be redress. And that's why we are going the route that we are taking. There are those who are scared, of course, because they interpret this Expropriation Act as giving the government just unfettered powers of land grab. That's not the case. And this is a proper law that is going to ensure that things are done properly, but that almost all our people must have access to land to be able to be productive. And because of this, we need to move quickly to find solutions to the unequal and unfair patterns of land ownership that existed in our country for many years. We all know that we come from the apartheid situation, and so we need to fix that and ensure that people have access to land. The resolution of this issue is not only a matter of social fairness, but it will also assist us in addressing other challenges that we are talking about. We have seen over the years now, we have had a lot of land invasions, and I'm sure SALGA will be grappling with this in many municipalities, because if we don't allocate land to people orderly, we are encouraging land invasion ourselves. Because people are not going to sit there hungry, dying when they see there are vast amounts of arable land out there. So if we have a clear program of allocating land to communities, to people, doing redress, ensure that we use land appropriately for production, if we do it properly, we'll be able to cap land invasions, because people will know that their government will allocate land to them. Whether it's they need land for housing developments, for farming, etc. So in short, as you can hear, I welcome the Act. But also, let's enforce bylaws. Municipalities must enforce bylaws to be able to cap land invasions and all these other things. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that last year in August, as I indicated earlier, we discussed the plan to launch what we call the Clean City campaign. And this is something that we have not really been able to get going. So I want to implore you to come up with a plan, an approach for how we can start this. I'm prepared to work with you since I've been asked by the President to focus at this level. We need to we need to get our cities to be clean. It can be a difficult task. Because a clean city will be able to attract tourists and ensure that it increases revenue as well. People like going to clean cities. So I think it's something that we should do. It's not, this one doesn't need rocket science. Let's get it done. We can plan and say, where do we start, where do we go? And we involved communities. Let me use one example of what I saw in other countries. Okay, let me use the example of Rwanda. I know we have problem with them now. But when I went to Rwanda at some point, I saw something very interesting, and they've got something called umuganda. Now, what they do with umuganda, every Friday, they go cleaning. And the president is part of the cleaning. And the leadership of the provinces, the mayors, all of them, they wear their overall, they go clean. Because that way they encourage communities. And I know in South Africa, some also tried it. I know in Gauteng, Lebogang Maile used to do something like that. I can't remember what he called it. Bontlekibot. Yes, Bontlekibot. And it could be that other townships or other municipalities, local areas are doing it already. But I think let's give it a momentum where we clean our cities, we clean our townships, so that we're able to ensure that people look forward to coming to South Africa. I read a story this morning that tourism is now increasing once again in South Africa. I saw a manager of Sun City saying there's a tourist boom coming in, the Western Cape as well. They were talking about it. So if we get this right, you'll see tourism is going to increase. So I want to suggest, President, that maybe we establish a committee that will evaluate our city's cleanliness every year. But also what we can do, we can give prizes to the best clean city. What do you think? Yeah. We get, are there some who are already doing it? Yeah. But we can give prizes, because when communities compete, it becomes a good thing. So let's establish a committee that will then look into that. Perhaps by the time you finish the Lekgotla, you'll come with some ideas on how we can work together. National government will be part of it. We'll get provincial government and local government to be part of it. But, SALGA can lead this campaign, working with us. Let me therefore conclude, because I also want to listen to Minister Ramokgopa. Let me conclude by restating that it is important that SALGA and all three spheres of government collaborate in order to find solutions to service delivery challenges. On Thursday, President Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address, SONA, which is an important period in the life of our country, where the President tells us where we come from and where we're going. What are the challenges? What are the solutions? And as we deliberate on key issues at hand today, let us keep in mind that important address, because once the President has spoken, we will take from that and incorporate in our programs on what we need to do also at local government level. I believe, Chairperson, that this Lekgotla will have robust discussions that will advance our collective aspirations in a way that is making us to be united in purpose. Let us harness the power of intergovernmental integration to build a more responsive, effective, and inclusive system of governance that truly serves the needs of our people. That's really what we want to see happening, and I'm sure that by the time you finish this Lekgotla, you're going to come up with a lot of these programs that are going to ensure that we see improvement going forward. South Africa is a beautiful country, and if we work together, we can make it better and better and make people to come to our country. We will develop it, deal with all the challenges we face, unemployment, grow the economy, get our children to have skills, our people, and indeed continue to build our country. I'm happy to have had this opportunity to talk to you, and I wish you well. I wish you well.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Colleagues, we will take a few comments from the floor. Any takers on the input by the TP? A lot has been said by the Deputy President, starting from the rolling out of the district development model to finding solutions to the challenges that are facing the sector, working collaboratively with other spheres of government. Very important matters of intergovernmental relations that we have always been yearning for a very long time. Because, President, we see that there is a different conceptualization of IGR in other spheres of government, but also where you would find that local government is treated as a junior brother of other spheres of government. And working collaboratively with other spheres would help us to resolve the challenges that we face as local government and in the process of interacting with various government departments. That we appreciate so much. Councillor Nkosi, Sotashe, Neo Mashatile, and Sibang. No? Yeah, no, it moves from Northwest premise. The Northwest phenomenon. Yeah, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Mleaf after Sibang. They always do, President. They always do. Yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you very much, Deputy President and the Chair of the session, and also greetings to the Deputy President of the country. And firstly, I would like to welcome the very progressive speech by the Deputy President. President, there is only one item, President, which I am encouraged that the President has reiterated it, the DP, is the one of the funding, the review of the funding model of local government. It's a topic that we would have thought that maybe the Minister of Finance, Minister Kodongwane, would have touched on as we elaborated after his input. And it's something that the President Cyril Ramaphosa, has indicated, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the opening of the Lekgotla that took place during the formation of the GNU. And now that the DP has expressed on it to the President, it is incumbent of the presidency of SALGA to also express on it so that at least we have timelines and of when is it going to start the process of trying to solve this problem, because it's part of the things that SALGA has been expressly preoccupied with for the duration of its existence. So I thought that I should only just raise that first. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mulu. Councillor Sutash.
No, thank you very much, DP Parati. Good afternoon, DP. No, thank you very much, DP, for quite insightful remarks on this Lekgotla of SALGA. Three issues that I just want to touch on. The emphasis on the intergovernmental relations. I think it's very, very important, DP, because one gets a sense, not all the departments, that SALGA is just, people are doing favors for SALGA to be part of those interactions at that platform. I think there should be more emphasis that the voice of local government must be heard in all platforms of government, because we are a unitary state. We've got 3 spheres of government. In the absence of local government, we would not realize our mission as the government of South Africa. So I really appreciate that there is that recognition from the highest office in the country that the local government voice must be heard. The second issue is the issue of the grant framework. I think we have engaged earlier this morning the Minister of Finance. We referred the Minister of Finance to Section 152 of the Constitution of the Republic, which speaks about the objects of local government. I mean, if we were to realize those objects, definitely there should be collaboration between the 3 spheres of government, not take the shortcuts when local government is not performing. The only soft spot that we have to take is to take away the grants from local government and divert those grants to other places. But we have to invoke Section 154, which speaks to the human resource support. So those collaborations are very, very important to help local government to realize its objective. The last one is the issue that you have raised, which is, for me, is very fascinating, because the outlook of our country mirrors the leadership of the country. So we might take it lightly that when we embark on cleaning our cities, it's just something that no one cares about, but it speaks to us, firstly as individuals. You know, Minister Hlabisa said something when he addressed us as NEC of SALGA, that one thing what he normally notices when he comes and visit leaders is to look at the situation in their offices where they operate. So when people are coming from outside of South Africa, the first thing that they look at is the outlook of the country itself. But I think it shouldn't be just a kind of a hard hoc approach. We need to sustain the program that you are talking about, DP, because we will be instilling a culture in our society of taking the responsibility of making sure that our country belongs to them as members of community. Yeah, I think that's it from me, and I hope this is not the last and the first. The first and the last DP engagement of this nature. We will implore that we should sustain President going forward, so that there is this kind of interaction from the highest office of the country between local government and presidency, so that also we can have direct interaction with the presidency as local government in terms of the experiences at this level where we are. Let me just pause there. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mashatile.
No, thanks, DP and Presidency and our Minister. President, let's welcome the input by the Deputy President. It's a very important presentation. President, I want to touch on two things. One is the excitement that we had on the DDM model. And this excitement seems to dissipate. And that excitement is not there anymore. Maybe what we need to be doing, President, is that the champions that are appointed must really come down to districts and coordinate as per your mandate. And if it's not happening, President, we will always have beautiful models, but we lack on the implementation part of it. I see the future of South Africa taking that shape, but if we are going to come up with these important models and we don't implement them, it's not going to augur well with the challenges that we are confronted with as a country. And we thought best that it will be an instrument that will confront some of these challenges. The other point that I'm welcoming, President, going forward is a concerted effort of keeping South Africa clean. We are doing this in bits and pieces and without proper coordination. President, sometimes we need to be structured, I think, as government in how we do things. That I like what you said when you spoke about Rwanda, how they do on Fridays and all that. Even if we are not going to start on Fridays and all that of every Friday, but we must start somewhere. So we are relying heavily on you, President, that some of these important aspects should not just be inputs that you are making, and it should be a realization of keeping South Africa clean so that we can be able to attract more investment in this country. And one of the most important things that you have addressed, President, on the issue of, I think it was the minister on the issue of crime that is confronting all yourself. I'm not sure how the commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, I'm not sure what is inspiring him. What is happening in KwaZulu-Natal, where his efforts are seriously targeting the criminals. But in other provinces, we don't see this publicity of targeting of criminals and an effort that seeks to make sure that we root out crime in our country. So we want to see much of this work being done, and this community must know, and South Africans must know what government does. I just want to caution government on the approach that we need to take around dealing with the tension between ourselves at the political level, the tension that we deal between ourselves and America itself. In terms of the public space, we need to be sending to America a concerted effort about the challenges that we have. And I want to thank the President on being decisive on that. But as we deliver that message, we need to be putting facts on the table. That the black South Africans who are farm workers are the ones that are thrown out of the farms. There are no white workers, there are no white bosses that are thrown out of the farms in this country. So that message is very important, President. I thought I should just give you a takeaway on that one. Thanks.
Thanks. Now, the next speaker is Sibang. I see he has shifted seat now. Yes, back. Sibang, I was looking for you where you were seated. Oh, he's taking counsel. Go ahead, Sibang, go ahead.
No, thanks, Thanks, DP Pagat, and greetings to DP Paul. One is we must agree, DP, that at the center of our problems, as well indicated by the DP, is both the provincial government and the national government at the center of our problems. And the minute we do not accept that at the center of our problems is these two spheres, we are going to be sitting in all of our meetings and do not confront what the problems of local government are. I will make a typical example. MECs, ministers, when they take the podium, the first thing that they speak is that municipalities do not collect. Municipalities must enforce bylaws. Now, how do you switch off electricity of a clinic or of a hospital? Now, the proposal that I'm bringing, DP, is that the same method that you are going to persuade cabinet to adopt of taking some funds or some grants or the allocation from the allocation to pay directly to either ESCOM or water boards. Let us use the same mechanism to say, if you owe municipalities, when we give you your allocation, we are going to take the certain percentage from the allocation to directly pay municipalities. Because it's a song that we are always singing, but we are not seeming to be coming with a very tangible program to deal with that. So it's a proposal, DP. The second proposal is that the IGR. You see, there are provincial and national government that exist at the level of local government in the form of our municipalities who are directly servicing our constituencies. And when you call them to IGR, they want to believe that they are making us a favor to attend our IGR meetings. And there is no enforcement from the government. And I'm pleading or proposing that part of what we must be doing to see that there's an enforcement in their performance agreement, let the IGR be one aspect of their KPIs, so that when we go and assess their performance, we know indeed that they have abided by the AGR framework. The issue of water boards, DP. You've got water boards that are appointed by the minister. The constitution, it gives local government in form of the district the constitutional responsibility and right to provide bulk services in the form of water and sanitation. Is that not a contradiction on its own? Because they then have the responsibility to report to the ministry, which local government in form of the district would not have an absolute 100% control over the functioning of these water boards. What is it that can be done? Can you revisit that and see what is an important role that can be played by local government? Because it is not by favor, it is in the constitution that local government in the form of the district will then assume this responsibility. But on the other hand, you find that ministers are the ones who would be appointing these water boards. But also move it further to say, why don't we have a one regulatory board like you have in NERSA, Minister Ramokgopa, so that you don't become a referee and the player at the same time. We know that when we deal with the water board, there is this regulatory board that is in place that at all times will then be able to engage with. And also want to also commend the Treasury Department for allowing municipalities to access the grant to move from conventional meters to smart meters. It was a very good move. And what we must do as SALGA is to, at all times, make sure that our member municipalities apply for that grant. The last thing, TP, MIG, it allows us as municipalities to rehabilitate the roads. but does not allow us to maintain the roads using the MIG grant. Now the question is, why should we have to allow the road to be in a bad state in order for you to rehabilitate it, and not use the same MIG grant to maintain this road so that it does not get into a dire state whereby you are going to be having communities marching on the basis of a road that is in dire state. You rehabilitate it, is going to cost you more. Whereas if you could have used the MIG grant to maintain the road, it could have been better than waiting for it to deteriorate and rehabilitate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabang. Mlif, you are the last.
No, thank you very much.
Your hand was up? Oh, okay.
She can
I
come.
didn't notice. You can come in. Go ahead.
Thank you, DP. Before Ntate Molefe or after? Oh, okay. No, thank you very much, DP. Let me take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate the input by the Deputy President of State. Safe to indicate that I was actually looking at my notes in our previous meeting with the Deputy President and SALGA previously. A lot of issues, I think they are noted, albeit they are not adequately expressed, but there is an acknowledgement of most in the input. Just to emphasize on what my colleagues would have said, 3 issues, DP. You do have trading services wherein our plea as SALGA would be that there should be meaningful consultation and engagement. Often we are engaged at the tail end when decisions are just about to be taken. In the water and sanitation sector, we will appreciate either some form of an interministerial political team or sort of a MINMEC where we are able to engage and discuss issues other than to be consulted at the point where decisions are taken, even the inputs are not acknowledged. I think it will enhance the interdependence and the collaboration that ought to happen at that level. As much as I would, in principle, agree with the top slicing, I think the details and the submission we will have to be favored with so that we study and we make meaningful contribution. And the reason for that, Deep, is that anybody would think it's easy for people to just top slice and say, I'm taking from you, I'm paying what you owe, or I'm taking from a municipality, I'm paying for either a water board or ESCOM. But what we are not addressing as a fundamental matter is what is the total cost of allocation per service, particularly on indigent households, vis-a-vis the cost of service itself in the entire value chain. Treasury says here, every household is given something like 567 Rand 0.1 cent per indigent household. And it actually breaks it down to say that for water, every household gets about 156 Rand. For electricity, you get about 136. But the question is, what is the cost of electricity per household vis-a-vis the equitable share portion that comes into that municipality? Because the other factors, and Minister Ramokgopa was talking about it earlier, which I agree with, the other factors of infrastructure deficit or infrastructure issues that impacts that municipality are left in the hands of the municipality to cater for. There's a gap in between what you give us and what the cost of the service is, plus other factors of an aged infrastructure, loss of water, and so on. that could be much more than what we can what we can afford as local government, and it comes from the same equitable share. So there are many other factors that we'll have to look into before we can say yes, top slice and take. We are sitting in most of the municipalities with asbestos infrastructure, much more bigger of a problem. There is no consideration of a special fund that addresses historical infrastructure related issues, whether in water or in electricity or sanitation. So I would suggest that the presentation that the minister did, as SALGA, we may not have had an opportunity to really speak on that or give our views, and it would be important. The last point is we agree with the Clean Cities bylaws, and I think SALGA has done a lot of work in terms of analyzing whether we do have bylaws that are enforceable and that are gazetted afresh in most of the areas. Our biggest issue as a country, we have not invested in landfill sites. There are no landfill sites anywhere. That's why we find garbage stored in a little bit of corners. What we have are designated land by municipalities to say this is where we are going to put, this is where we are going to establish a landfill site. But we don't have a model of an existing landfill site in various categories that will guide and say what is the cost of putting up a landfill site. And we have an opportunity now, because you can turn some of the waste into energy, and you can utilize all other factors. And I think these are some of the included or the areas that we can utilize to do that. If we do that, I think that would do much better in terms of our environmental impact. Otherwise, the rest of the other issues, we can discuss them outside of the meeting. DP, I am quite excited and I'm quite happy. DDM, we still have provincial and national governments department that comes in with their APPs concluded, no consultation of either the IDP or the one plan. And at the point of implementation, we can't say no to a service. We need, either at an economic or at a social level, we need that development. But it may not have been a priority in that community at that point. What do we do? What does the Deputy President do to ensure that before your APPs are tabled in Parliament or in the provincial legislatures, there is an acknowledgement of a consultative process, and all of us have aligned our priorities so that you don't pronounce to the left and the local municipalities pronouncing to the right. In fact, we could use that consultative process together to go to communities and say, you want a school here, but don't we all agree that we actually need a clinic before a school, because somebody else can cater for those kids in an overpopulated school. Let's agree that all of us agree. A community, once you consult it meaningfully, they will always agree with you, and they will always agree that this becomes a priority now, and all of them can rally behind that which is doable at that point. Thank you very much, DP.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noom. Welcome, Councillor Dube. We are happy that you have finally arrived in the meeting of the NEC, Chairperson of KwaZulu-Natal. Councillor Mlevi.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to the Deputy President. I am the chairperson of the Northwest. I'm raising this matter to address the Northwest phenomenon raised by the Deputy President of SALGA. No, thank you very much for responding promptly and sufficiently to the Trump phenomenon. We feel that we are a country and our sovereignty is intact. I move from a premise that all spheres of government are interdependent, interconnected, interrelated, and not hierarchical, and must treat one another with utmost care and refrain from taking each other to court. I represent the poorest province in the country. I don't know what to say to them about the attitude, posture of NERSA. I don't know where the 12.5% is going to come from, and I appeal that we may have been defeated in court by NERSA and others, but this matter, if NERSA is in South Africa, it must be considerate to the reality of the socio-economic situation that we as local sphere of government find ourselves in, and I totally don't agree on behalf of my people with this 12% of NERSA. But I also find myself in a sphere of government where the Free State Court has ruled and charged the mayor, a speaker, and municipal manager personally liable for failing to pay pensions of certain beneficiaries, and that's where we find ourselves in. Now I want to deal with just 3 issues, but first I want to act as a shop steward. I will never keep quiet on this one. Deputy President, the welfare of a councillor to me is very important. And this matter of a welfare of a councillor is never equated to a welfare of a member of a provincial legislature and a member of parliament. Never. I will make you examples, DP. Just recently through a circular, a burial provision of a councillor was done away with. So we can't bury a councillor, but we continue to bury an MP, an MPL, an MEC, and a deputy. We even do to former. But with the councillors, just through a circular, that thing was done away with. Through a circular signed by an official of Treasury says, you mayors who don't have, who have mayoral houses, continue with them. Those of you who don't have them, don't imagine having them. It's a circular. It's a circular. That is how, as a sphere of government, we are treated. If it was done through a signature of my counterpart, the minister, maybe I could understand, but on a signature of an official, such a thing. You wake up, you are put on a cost reimbursement. It's an intervention, but it's on a signature of a circular. And that is why I was premising my submission on chapter 3 of the Constitution. I want to appeal that if we are serious about DDM, let's be serious and invest money into it, but also empower legislatively and otherwise districts. I mean, practically speaking, we are saying in law, districts must give support to local municipalities within the perimeters of their financial health status. But in real sense, in law, districts do not have powers over locals. But in practical sense, when you go to a province, this is what you find in terms of powers and functions. You find one district is a water service authority in the same province. In the next district, that district is not a water service authority, but the local is. It's a lot of inconsistency, and therefore, if you were to empower them, you don't know how to capacitate and to relate to them. That matter for us in terms of DDM is very urgent. Now, DP, the Constitution, in my view, created a big brother phenomenon because it has given provincial and national sphere in 154, 106, 137, 139 powers of intervention over a local sphere of government, but gave the local sphere of government no recourse, so we can't say anything if the two other spheres are not carrying out their functions, and is silent on what is there as a recourse if the two spheres of government are not carrying out their part of the bargain. Now, I want to deal with this under the same issue of interventions. In my district, and I'm a district mayor, I have a municipality called Lekgotla. It's well known countrywide. They have a mayor there every week. There's a new mayor there. Now, from time to time, a municipality like Lekgotla can't pay salaries, let alone carry all of its other obligations, such as electricity, roads, and stuff like that. There's a hemorrhage of businesses leaving Lekgotla as a result. The courts have intervened and said, you, the district, you must perform, and I'm a water service authority, you must perform the reticulation responsibility of this local municipality. But that court order remains an unfunded mandate because it does not give you any additional funding. So, if Lekgotla goes down, I go down with it because of incidences such as this. I am happy with interventions by the Minister of Energy with regard to intervening on the issue of electricity, but I'm just highlighting that. As I move towards conclusion, DP, we appreciate the fact that the Constitution states that the provincial and national spheres of government must give support to the local sphere in terms of Section 154. But many a time there is a bigger appetite not of giving support, but of usurping or taking over the functions constitutionally allocated to the local spheres of government. And lastly, free municipalities from historical debt. I want to make a Can I proceed?
Yes, you can learn now.
I am. My appeal, Chair, is that we have to embark on a deliberate process of freeing local municipalities or municipalities from historical debt, especially in the areas of water. I mean, many of our local municipalities where I come from are still forced to pay the Buputatswana debt, which is more than 30 years. And many of the municipalities, therefore, cannot adopt funded budget. And that is a serious impediment. I will stop here, Deputy President. I will write others that I've left out. Thank you.
Yeah, ndiela kwa. TP, ndiela kwa. Thank you very much, colleague. That was the last speaker. TP, can you give you time to reflect on the issues raised?
Thank you very much. The first question was from Councillor Nkosi, the review of funding model. I think we have agreed on that one. As I said earlier, that the President briefed me that in the discussion with Minister Godongwana, it was agreed that at the Lekgotla in March, this will be on the agenda to look at how do we review the funding model for local governments. So I think in terms of, you were saying, Councillor Ngozi, what are the time frames? I think let's look at that time frame of March and begin to discuss it. Obviously, we don't want to discuss it forever. I'm sure that following that Lekgotla, there will be some proposal. Councillor Sotashe, you emphasize intergovernmental relations. Yes, I think let's agree on that, because there is a view that local government is not heard or is relegated to the periphery. So the frameworks are already there, whether it's grant framework and other frameworks. But I think it's a question of how do we ensure that we deepen collaboration and make sure we can work together. You are also concerned about diverting funds to other spheres, that we need to avoid that. I'm sure that engagement will have also with Treasury. The cleanup campaign, I think all of us agree, and I urge SALGA to come with a proposal on how we can do it. And you were saying, Councillor Sotash, that it must be sustained, because we have had this in the past, but it's a one-off thing. These things need to be sustained. Councillor Mashatile, you welcome to the input, and you excited about the DDM, but you say it's dissipating. So we need to revive it once again. I think this issue of champions, I think if we can zoom into them, I'm also going to ask my office, we look into that, because we do have champions throughout the country on the DDM. And so we need to make sure that once again we get the champions to run with this program. The issue of crime, can we do it as they do it in KZN? I'm sure we should learn from KZN. They seem to be doing something right. So we are going to look at what Commissioner Mkwanazi is doing there. They seem to have some model that works. But you're quite right, because it's not just fixing energy, keeping South Africa clean. We must also deal with this issue of crime as well. The issue of the US, I think the statement by the President was very clear. Let's stick to that as our position. I know in South Africa we all like talking. Can we at least, in the ANC where I come from, sometimes when we go to meetings, they give us speaking notes, because they know that we can talk. So there is speaking notes, colleagues, is the statement by the President on how we deal with the US. Others will come from different angles. And I think what you were saying, Councillor Mashatile, that we must avoid public spats with some of those people who like it. Councillor Sibanga, at the center of our problem is national government and provincial government. We will engage with the MECs and ministers on this issue to ensure that local government or municipalities are not punished when there are problems, but we try and find solutions together. I agree that the issue of top slicing can be considered, but maybe don't rush it at local government level. Leave it to us first. Let's see how we get it right nationally. For now, we're talking about ourselves, owing you. So leave it with us first. Let's see if we can pay you that way before you adopt that as well. But I'm happy that people say, let's look at it. How will it work? It's something that we're still going to implement. Issue of water boards, why don't we have one regulatory board? I think this matter is actually on the agenda to look at how we can have one regulatory board. We will look into that. The MEC, Councillor Sibanga, you're saying you are allowed to build roads, but you can't maintain them. I'm sure it's something we can look at. In fact, the biggest challenge sometimes in government infrastructure, whether national, provincial, local, is the issue of maintenance. We come up with good initiatives, community halls, etc. The next time, a year later, when you get there, the toilet is not working, and so on, because of maintenance. So I agree with you that we'll discuss with Treasury to say, how do we deal with these issues? It's well and good to give people money and say, build a road, do this, but then there's no money for maintenance. Councillor NEC Wenum, yes, meaningful consultation and engagement should be the order of the day. We've perfected this issue of cooperative governance in South Africa through the MINMEX and the Presidential Coordinating Council, and I agree with you that I think we must deepen that to include actively local government in these various structures. The issue of equitable share of national revenue obviously will be part of that review, because as I said earlier, we started from a period where everybody used the assumption that local government will readily have revenue from collecting rates and taxes, but the reality is something else now. Even where municipalities, Minister, I remember where municipalities were, supplying electricity and collecting revenue. Some of them we took it away. But I think it's important that we review all that so that municipalities do have enough ways of generating revenue, but that will form part of that model. Let's look at local government funding model that is sustainable. You were saying, Councillor Nikwe, that on DDM some of the ministers are no longer consulting. And they come up with good initiative, but sometimes, people want a clinic, not a football ground. So when you consult local communities, working with particularly municipalities, you get the reality of what is needed. So we'll talk again to our ministers and also MECs to say, DDM was conceptualized by the president to ensure that there are those engagements. Even amongst ourselves as national government, you may find two ministers coming to your province doing different things, not aligned, the resources are not aligned. So I agree with you that let's relook at that and fix it. We should engage before APPs are finalized. We agree with that. And as I said, you also raised the issue of support the Clean Cities campaign. Lastly, Councillor Mlife, I'm going to leave the NESA issue to Minister Ramkupa because he's still going to speak and indicate how we're managing that. The welfare of councillors, yes, we'll look at these issues because some of them, like you say, it's a secular Councillor Mlefe from an officials. We don't know about it. But we don't want people not to want to become councillors because they are badly treated compared to MPs and MPLs and ministers and MECs. So we'll look into it. National government should provide support. Yes, we agree. We often do that. We don't rush to take over municipalities and put them under administration. We start by giving support. MECs for local government knows that they must start by supporting first. Putting a municipality under administration is a last resort. It's not the first intervention. So where that is happening, please alert us so that we can intervene to say what support have you provided before you put a municipality under administration. You're still paying Buputatswana debts. Yes, so we need to look into that. You know, people always say government is continuous. So when you come in, you are the successor in law, so you take the bad and the good. But I agree that we should assist you. It can't just be your problem. Let me leave it there for now. I've noted all the other issues, President, I think are things we're going to engage on. I thought I was going to listen to Minister Ramukhopa, but I'm told I have to leave. So get that all speeches out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TP. Thank you, TP. President SALGA.
No, thank you very much, President of the Shovel, and let us thank you, Deputy President. In fact, I was sharing with my colleagues that at one point we were given 30 minutes to interact with you. It ended up to be 2 hours. And today we thought that you were going to spend almost an hour with you. It ended up to be more than an hour and a half. And this is a reflection of commitment of a leader of governance and business interacting with the important sphere of government in building partnership and relations. And I'm happy that you are directly confirming our theory that local government and other spheres of government are like your legs and arms that must support each other to lift the heaviest things that we face in the local government. Thank you very much, DP. We will meet again. And I know DP was demanding that he's imposing himself in local government. He's not asking to come and talk to us.